My name's Clarissa Mize, and Kansas means to me mostly family. My family has been here since 1854, particularly in Topeka. My father's family came from Germany to Anderson County, so my family has been here for a very long time, and it's always going to be my home. I love it. I find it fascinating. The history is intriguing to me always. I could spend my entire life reading Kansas history.
I'm Gail Sigurdson, and what Kansas means to me is space. I'm a transplanted Kansan, and the openness continues to amaze me. The other thing that's kept me here is Kansas's inability to be easily defined. There are so many stereotypes about it, but they contradict each other. As a free state and liberal thinkers, and then the current political climate, I like that inability to stereotype our state.
Hi, I'm Iris Wilkinson, and I grew up in St. Louis on the banks of the mighty Mississippi. I came to Kansas in 1970 to help burn down the campus at the University of Kansas, and I was going to go on to Berkeley and continue. And instead I fell in love and married a local Kansas boy, and I've been here ever since. I now live on the banks of the Kaw. I have a small cabin out in Douglas County near Lecompton on the banks of Oakley Creek, and I'm staying right here. All three of my children are native Kansans, and I have found a love for this place. I'm a member of the Kansas Explorers Club, and I like to go out and explore Kansas and see the culture and the food and the history and the art and the music and the stories and the open, beautiful open sky. When I'm away from here, I'm ready to come home.
My name is Jill Zinn, and I adopted Kansas as my home over 35 years ago. I grew up in Nebraska and moved to Kansas, and what I love about Kansas is the broad variety of beautiful people and wildlife and nature that's available here. I also feel like there's a really strong connection to the heritage and the historical background, and I feel like I belong.
I'm Marilyn Pilkey. I was raised in Kansas City, but we lived in California, Southern California, LA County for 35 years. And while we lived there, we pined for Kansas. We yearned for thunderstorms, for open roads, for space around the houses, for clean air that we could breathe without getting asthma attacks. I used to drive on the freeway, and the smog was so bad I would fall asleep at the wheel over and over and over again because the air was so foul. By the time we left California, our car had been stolen out of our driveway in broad daylight while we were home. They were selling drugs on our streets. There were gangs in all my classrooms. It was scary. It was such a relief to come home to Kansas and sunflowers and deer and little rabbits in the yard, and yards that you could see all down the block without fences around them, 6-foot-high fences. In California, your backyard is a handkerchief. In Kansas, your backyard is the whole world. I love Kansas.
Hi, I'm Laura Dalrymple, and I am a Kansan. My family came here in the 1850s, and I've just enjoyed being a Kansan. I've traveled all over the world, and I carry my Kansas roots with me. I can hear it in the way I talk and in the way that I view the world. I'm proud that the Old West is in Kansas, and I can explain my state to people that have never even heard of this state. Especially if I'm in Borneo or in Egypt or Turkey. Many times they don't know where the center of the United States is, and it is in Kansas. So it's fun for me to explain this. And then I lived away for a while and then came back, and I have found that I truly enjoy my roots as a Kansan. I teach at a community college here in in the state. And I am thrilled to be able to teach Kansas students about the world and about art history. I just truly am very proud that of the history of my family in Kansas and that I live in Kansas.
I'm Lisa Grossman from Lawrence, Kansas, and I'm from Western Pennsylvania, so I'd always dreamed of wide prairie spaces, sort of a romanticized notion of prairies and plains from all those little house books I read. And so anyway, in 1988 I had the opportunity to come to Kansas City to work for Hallmark Cards as an illustrator, and I was kind of disappointed because I didn't see any planes there, but shortly after I arrived, a few months after I arrived, I got to go on a little road trip to the Flint Hills, and for me that was it. That sort of inspired all of my work to the present and into the future of the space for me. What Kansas means to me is space, open space, wide skies, just this sense of vastness, and that I like feeling small. It feels like an appropriate scale of human to planet, and the Flint Hills and the open spaces of central Kansas and western Kansas have just sort of provided my inspiration and my vocation. So it's been a great gift to me.
I think you're 2 minutes are up.
Okay.
I am Kelly Barth. I'm not a Kansan originally. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, actually Raytown. And my father's from Healy, and what I remember about Kansas was driving on I-70 to get to Colorado through Kansas, and then we stopped in Healy, and I remember wind and flies and cemeteries. But I now, since I saw a painting of Lisa's when I was just awestruck by it.
1993.
I thought it was so beautiful, and I needed to get off of I-70, which I have done since then, and so Kansas is a beautiful, wild, free-thinking place in many respects, and we'd like to continue that tradition of free thinking.
What Kansas means to me.
That's it.
My name is Judy Graverson Allgeier. I am a transplant to Kansas. I have lived here a couple times, but I've come back. It is a joyful place. I love the skies and the clouds and the smell of corn and the storms and the tornadoes even. When I've chosen to come back, I can't tell you how many times people will say to me, "You're moving to Kansas," and the voice inflection is always the same. And I say yes. And they just don't realize how many firsts this state has put forth in the history, and it's amazing how many things that people don't realize about Kansas. So I'm proud to be an adopted Kansan, and I love all the beautiful things that the state has.
Douglas Wallace, and I was born on the banks of the Missouri in Atchison, Kansas, so overlooking the river. What Kansas means to me, certainly the key to it is the family ties, the family connections that my ancestors, obviously all of my ancestors at one time or another trekked their way out to the prairies, and that it's that sort of the fascinating aspect of their world and the landscape around them, the communities, the neighborhoods, the rural countryside. So the fact that they were a part of that, and I'm a product of them, certainly means that the landscape, the buildings, the history, the whole gamut of what is Kansas, in particular the Kaw Valley, because this was their home and my home. It has a deep meaning, so that I look at places, the stone houses, the stone buildings, I look around them, and there's something more than just dead architecture or just a beautiful landscape with glorious mountains in the background. The landscape is very different from that, and the fact that the family was here, that's what makes Kansas special to me.